Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, we're going to talk about the upcoming Disneyland After Dark Heroes Assemble Party, specifically why it hasn't sold out yet. Jessie's Critter Carousel officially opens, and we're going to tell you what we really thought of the Anaheim Hotel in a review you are not going to want to miss. All that coming up next. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, and points around Southern California, this is the Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged. This is the Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged, episode 764 for the week of April 10th, 2019. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disneyland vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And by Disboards.com. Join the more than 1.5 million Disney fans every month who plan their Disney vacations on our forums. You'll find advice for everything from theme parks, resorts, restaurants, Disney Vacation Club, Universal, and so much more. Head over to disboards.com and join in the discussion. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. Almost said live. Almost said live. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Corey Fiasconaro.
Hey there.
Rhino Clavin.
Hello.
Back in the production nook, our producer, Mr. Craig Williams.
Hi.
And out in Fresno, California, Mr. Tom Bell.
Hello, everyone.
And hope your week is off to a good start. Couple things in housekeeping. I do want to mention there is some confusion for folks regarding our 20th anniversary of Dreams party that we're holding.
August 6th through 11th.
August 6th through the 11th here in Walt Disney World in Orlando. While our big party, that's Saturday night, the 10th, is sold out. We are still taking registrations for the other events that go on during the week. There's going to be a lot of meetups happening in the parks with members of the team. If you are a Patreon supporter, we have some special things planned for you guys, which we're going to be announcing in the coming weeks. So, we're going to be doing, we're going to have the silent auction set up in our registration area, which will be at the Contemporary Resort. I believe rooms are still available in the room block that we have, getting rates at a fantastic price for that week. So you're still welcome to come and join us. There'll be a link in the show notes page for where you can sign up to join. I believe registration is $35 a person. And that gets you your credentials. And we're going to be doing a live show. We're not sure what the location is yet, but we will be doing a live show. That's Sunday, the 11th, I think it is. And so you're welcome to join us for all of that. So like I said, the party at Pandora World of Avatar and Animal Kingdom on the night of the 10th is sold out. But we still have plenty of room available for everything else. So you're more than welcome to come and join us. And again, that's August 6th through the 11th. We'll be having a lot of fun. Already over 1,000 people registered to attend. It's going to be a fun week, so you're not going to want to miss it. And of course, it's always wonderful here in Orlando in August. So, also want to remind everybody to sign up for the Diz newsletter, the Diz daily email blast that goes out with updates on all the new content that have gone up on the Diz in the last 24 hours, news stories, posts on the boards, some of our featured articles, things like that, all go out to your email every day. We'll have a link to that in the show notes page as well, but there are several places around the site where you can find the link to sign up for that. And you're going to want to sign up because I will promise you in the next couple of months, we're going to be doing some fun giveaways that we will do at random to people who sign up for our newsletter. And outside of that, that is everything I have in housekeeping. Anybody else have anything? Do you want to talk about Patreon a little bit?
I can. I don't know that I ever talk about it on the show. So
why? These are people who
I don't know. I just am realizing that right now. But If you are a Patreon supporter, I have gone through over the last week and made about 30 different posts on there that are all scheduled out for the rest of the month that you can see some behind the scenes stuff from our recent Disneyland trip, some stuff from here at Disney World. It's kind of all over the map. And you can check that out. It's in all different tiers. If you're not familiar with what Patreon is, it's essentially a crowdfunding site that allows folks like ourselves who do podcasts or any sort of kind of creative work, if you find it within your means or whatever, you can donate to the podcast, and it helps us with the everyday runnings, like equipment maintenance and making sure I'm not fired, things like that. But there's different tiers. There's like there's a tier where you can just be like, hey, I love your show, and and we thank you very much. And then there's tiers where you can get access to Pete's solo show. There's
these tiers run $3, $10, $25, and $100.
There's a $50 one too.
And a $50.
Yeah. There's 5 tiers, which is the normal Patreon standard. If you're not familiar with it, but yeah, and they'll get you access to different sorts of things, behind the scenes content and all that sort of stuff. And
the solo show goes out to people $10 and above.
$10 and up. Yep. Yeah.
And I'm on a roll right now.
Yeah. There's the 6th episode is ready to go this week, actually.
And number 7's done.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Did a Q&A.
Awesome.
Did a Q&A. They asked some really good questions. Not that the last batch of questions wasn't good, but as I was answering some of the questions, it was bringing out more than I realized. Mm-hmm. So I just this morning, actually, before any of you guys got here, just went into did a whole thing on the studio, and somebody asked the question, why how do I feel about having a studio in my house? And that should have been just a kind of basic answer, but it ended up being something a lot more than I was. And it's been very cathartic doing the solo show. I really enjoyed it.
Well, good. I'm
really
glad.
Enjoyed it.
Because it means they'll keep coming.
I'm having a fun time doing them.
Yeah.
I'm doing them diary style, as opposed to if you've listened to any of the solo shows I did before, where they were just kind of shows.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about that method that I've said before on the some of the other shows is that it almost, to me, it's like listening to a director's commentary on like a movie or something like that, because when you get the show, so the one that's going to go up this Friday, April 12th, if you are interested, that one is it starts off with Pete in Paradise Pier in Disneyland. And so it's kind of interesting to hear you talk like in the past tense, but what'll happen is we'll release the solo show, and then there'll be some of that content will have come out. So it's kind of like you've already absorbed the content, and now you can kind of see the idea process that led us to where it went. So it really is like
or the psychosis, whichever the case is.
A peek into the madness.
Yeah.
The chaotic, madness of it all.
So how do they sign up?
You can go to patreon.com/DizUnplugged, and you can check out all the different tiers and stuff like that. You can either go ahead and sign up for a tier and be billed monthly, or you can do like a one-time payment sort of a thing if you want. It's just, we do all the stuff we do here at the Diz free of charge for everybody all the time, and this is just that little extra, I said, behind the scenes.
I'm really grateful for it right now, because I know, at least where Craig is concerned and you are concerned, your cameras are...
I have a big problem with my camera.
I know. And the cameras these guys use to film are not cheap.
Yeah.
So they have to be...
And Star Wars is coming, and all I can feel every day is this tightening in my chest about this camera.
I'm on it. Yeah, these cameras aren't cheap. So that's the sort of stuff that Patreon helps me offset those costs. So, all right. Well, thank you, Rhino, for that.
I have one piece of housekeeping, and that is over in Disney's California Adventure. If you haven't been to the Food and Wine Festival yet, the last day to go is going to be April 23rd. So go get your food on if you haven't yet.
All right. So let's talk about California Adventure for a moment. Disneyland does these after-hours events, not too dissimilar to what we do here, although they do them much, much, much better than we do.
Yeah, there's a very big
difference.
Yeah,
they're very themed, and they're also very popular, and they normally sell out. Yet, the one coming up April 30th and May 1st from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. A California Adventure called Disneyland After Dark Heroes Assemble. I guess this is a Marvel-themed party. Has not sold out. And Tom, isn't that unusual?
Yes, and I think you kind of almost you hinted at the answer. It's at California Adventure, and not at Disneyland Park. All the previous events have been at Disneyland Park, and so for this one they moved it over to California Adventure because of the superhero theme. And it's just for some reason it's not selling out.
Why would that make a difference?
I don't know. I mean, it's maybe just not the amount of attractions, not the as many fan favorite attractions. Just something about staying in Disneyland Park after hours is magical.
Well, Tom, I haven't been to one of the after hours events, so I hope you can answer me this question. Like, are all the Fantasyland attractions open and such at the after hours parties?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, I can see that there from his side with California Adventure. Like, anything you actually want to do there is already a fast pass attraction. So on a normal day, you can zip in and out of pretty much everything at DCA very, very easily, as long as you're very good with getting fast passes or using max pass to your advantage. So right there, you're losing that kind of excitement. And then in terms of knowing you're going to meet Marvel superheroes, you can do that every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, too, I feel like, I mean, it might not have been summer 2018, it might have been summer 2017. It was summer 2017. They just had the Heroes, Summer of Heroes. And so a lot of the characters, like if you're an annual pass, and I'm not saying that's almost 2 years ago, but they had a lot of special superhero offerings that seem very reminiscent of this. So it's like this event was already a public thing. If you were an annual pass holder in California already, you've already experienced this. Or if you've gone to Disneyland in the last 2 years, I feel like people don't go every year like us. But, if you went 2 years ago, you've already done this as part of your regular day ticket.
Is there any possibility that they're just doing too many of these and people are getting tired of them?
Well, two things. One, they raised the price. It went from $99 to $109. They're doing two of them, whereas most of the previous events they've only done one.
So they got greedy. They overreached.
They got greedy. Yeah.
They moved it to California Adventure. So it sounds like a perfect storm of just bad decisions.
Right.
It seems like they're trying to make it like how we have Galactic Nights, because if it's April 30th and May 1st, I think they were counting on people maybe being really jazzed up about Endgame having just been released on that Friday was on the 26th. So it'll come out Thursday at 6 p.m. on the 25th, and maybe people will be riding that wave, but you have to buy your ticket this far out. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Or maybe not. I mean, they may have tickets available that night.
Yeah.
The way this is going. I just, I'm looking at this through the lens of something that just happened out here that, well, I guess by the time this goes up, we will have talked about it on the Tuesday show. Disney Vacation Club decided to do a Galactic Nights party at Epcot for 200 and I think it was 200 and
Sweet Lord.
God, I forgot what the price was, but it was over $200 a person. And they had to cancel it. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm willing to bet real money that it was because it was overpriced. It was at Epcot and people are fed up. And I think this may be kind of a little bit, at least, of what this is. That, already people are pissed off that their passes are blocked out through most of the summer because of Star Wars opening, the cost of the annual passes. And remember, 80% of the audience out in California are annual pass holders. So they're already feeling squeezed. They're already feeling squeezed out and overpriced. And then they do this, and they raise the price, as you mentioned, from $99 to $109. So you've kind of broken that $100 threshold.
Well, and then the 90s night just happened, and everybody
3
heard
weeks ago,
about
a month ago.
Yeah, 3-hour wait times for characters too, and also that is really close to that event. So not only is it kind of breaking the bank for some people, but that offered, I feel like, a unique thing that you're not going to normally get in the park. We know there's a Marvel land coming, or superhero themed land, and it's so more than 50% of the characters that you're going to meet, you could have already met in the park that day. The only one that looks like it's going to be special for this event that you've probably never just seen walking around is Iron Man. Right. Because Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, I'm assuming they'll have Thor and Loki. I'm assuming they'll have every character that they have had in the park at some point. Hawkeye, all these people that aren't currently in the park. But it's also like, well, we know they're going to be around at some point soon in the future, too. So do we really want to spend that much money to line up for a 3-hour photo with Doctor Strange because he's got a special backdrop?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a misstep of the themes that they're choosing with these parties. Like, Marvel is insanely popular. I know that Rhino and I are in the same boat on this, that we see every Marvel movie in theaters, pretty much buy it automatically once it releases on Blu-ray. Whether or not we actually really enjoy it that much, just do it anyways. So we're right in the demographic for that. I couldn't care less about this. When you throw in 90s night at Disneyland, that has my attention. 50s throwback, that has my attention. Stuff that feels like it's embracing what the parks are about and why we're fans.
I did in January of last year. I did the throwback, the 50. It was the 50s throwback one.
Yeah, that
I'm pretty
one
sure it was
the first one. Yeah.
Unbelievable when they recreated the original fireworks show that they did at Disneyland. I mean, just all of it. And yes, it was crowded, but I didn't care because it was amazingly cool. Very different, far, far, far and away different than what we do here at what? Go ahead.
So I've never done any after hours special paid event aside from staying on property and doing after magic hours. But from my perspective, I think that any of these kind of events would be really cool to do just because you would just get instant access to everything. And like Rhino was just saying, like even some of the character meet and greets at these after-hour events did still warrant pretty long lines. And going to the park during a normal day, I'm not crazy about meeting characters, but if there's a character I'm really into and I see them, but there's like 50 people in line to meet that character, I'm just like, nope. Next time. But if I went to one of these events, I'd do a bunch of character interactions that I would never do otherwise. So,
but when you're talking about 3-hour wait times to see one of these characters, and the event is 3 hours long, and that's all you get to do is wait in line to see one character. I understand people being ticked off by that.
If they announced okay, we've got World of Color back, and we've made some sort of special 5-minute Marvel themed World of Color tag, I'd be all in. This,
I'd fly out for that.
And don't get me wrong, this there is part of this I'm excited for because it is encouraging adults to come in costume as well, and I do have my Thor costume. And I actually have my Star-Lord one too, but I can't wear the mask. But the other part of this is like the guidelines for what you can wear to the party are still just as strict as they kind of normally are.
It's like Halloween party rules. You can wear costumes, but not no weapons, no masks.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, cool. I could get a picture with Thor in my Thor out. That sounds fun to me. But I'm also like, is that worth $110? Like, my hope is maybe there's a big surprise that they're not trying to let out of the bag here. Like, why aren't they doing Monsters After Dark as part of this too, or adding that?
That just came to my mind too. They should need to do something with Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see if this ends up selling out, and if the fact that they're having difficulty selling it adjusts any, like the next one that they do, is the price going back to $99? Is it going back over into Disneyland Park? Yeah. Are they going to do these less frequently? Tom?
There's a rumor, and it's been out a few years, that once Galaxy's Edge opens, the Halloween party is moving over to California Adventure. Is the lackluster sales of this event going to affect that decision? Having the Halloween party at California Adventure.
Well, I guess we're going to find out. I mean, Disneyland doesn't announce their Halloween parties in January the way we do.
But I just had a thought about that now too, because they remember when the James Gunn thing started happening, and Bobcat Goldthwait said that he wanted his voice removed from the new World of Color show that never happened because World of Color wasn't working. So if the Halloween party is moving over, they'll have that Halloween-themed World of Color. The villains one they talked about will be a part of that, and that'll be the draw to pull people over, and then they can keep Disneyland Park open to regular guests all day so they can still get into Star Wars. So at least there is a special offering that you could probably only get during that time. You know, this Marvel one, there isn't really anything that you couldn't have already gotten along the way, really, or won't get in the future. So that's the really confusing part.
All right. Well, we're going to find out. So the other thing I just wanted to mention is that now Jessie's Critter Carousel in Pixar Pier is officially open. It had opened, soft open while we were out there. We were actually there for the first ride. Craig, I believe, didn't you do a POV?
Oh, yeah. No, we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
So our thoughts on it. And yeah, we have a POV up there at youtube.com/WDWinfo. And, Nancy got on the very first ride, as well as our newest Disneyland contributor, Morgan, who you will see popping up in videos and on Instagram and such. So it's just, I'm glad that it's officially open now for everyone, because it's such a cute little attraction. So
It was. I'm not sure what took so long, but, and then, of course, Pixar Pier still isn't finished. We're still waiting for it's
emotional whirlwind.
Emotional whirlwind. Thank you. What keeps blinking back over in that corner?
There's one of the floor lights is when they start to die, they blink begging for help.
Yes.
Okay.
An angel gets its wings, I think, too. I'm not sure.
It's distracting me because I keep seeing it go on and off over there. But so that happened. And Morgan mentioned something else to me, which I think, is more apropos to locals. She was very excited that they had put the benches back outside the Haunted Mansion. They had taken the benches away, and now they've put them back. And it didn't
I even noticed it when we were there.
Well, I think it's something that's more of interest to locals in particular. But I'm wondering, one of the entryways to Galaxy's Edge is if you walk past Haunted Mansion and you walk past Splash Mountain, there's that walkway that goes by what's the name of that restaurant, Tom?
Hungry Bear.
Hungry Bear. That's going to be, and we know that line is going to be backed up past Haunted Mansion. I wonder if they're not putting those out there, because I think maybe some people are going to want to sit there and look at, oh my God, you're really waiting on this line to get in there? Or, just because people are going to need a place to sit because they're going to die from standing for 7 hours. But I thought that was because they have been taking things out. They've been taking everything off Main Street. They've been trying to widen every walkway imaginable around that park to accommodate the crowd that's coming in. And a lot of people have commented, and I noticed it too, with a lot of the things that have been removed from Main Street. Main Street looks kind of weird. Does anybody else notice that? Does anybody else feel that?
I don't think
because planters were removed, benches were removed, things were taken out just to make everything wider.
The main thing I noticed was the castle with that tarp over it.
That's hard to miss.
It definitely ruined my immersion.
It's interesting because you go, if you spend a week in Disneyland and then immediately go to the Magic Kingdom here, you're like, wow, our Main Street is so much wider. But when you go from here to there, I never think, oh, this one's a lot smaller. So it's a weird perception I have there. So I didn't really think anything of it because I think about ours doesn't really have a lot of that stuff.
Well, that's one thing that, I credit Disney with each successive park they've built. They've learned things and they've changed things. So, they built Disneyland Park first and they built our Magic Kingdom and they changed things up around that. And then they built Tokyo Disneyland. And that Main Street experience, that entry experience, very different than ours. Far better, in my opinion.
Is that one covered? Is that the cover?
It is. There is a covering over it, but it's not like the long, narrow street that leads to the hub. There is a street that leads to a partner statue, but there's also 2 more streets that come off of it.
Oh, cool.
That have more stores and restaurants and things down. So it really disperses that crowd really, really well. It's a very different
like a
entry
little town.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is. So with each successive park they've built and opened, I think they've learned things and changed things and adapted it to where it's located. But so, all right, enough of that. We need to get to this review. Now, during our recent trip, one more thing I did want to mention. I'm not sure when it's going up, but Craig and Morgan Lamone, who he was just mentioning, one of our newer contributors out in California, had a chance to do the Princess Breakfast at Napa Rose.
Yes, and it will be released alongside this video on the exact same day.
Okay.
So, spoiler alert for any of you on there. It was an interesting experience, but you'll have to watch the video for the rest.
Okay, I was going to say, don't give away anything.
I did. It was an interesting experience.
So that will be going up with this show. Be sure to check that out. So, especially at, what was it, $125 a head?
Yeah, after
Breakfast?
Yes,
For breakfast.
brunch
at Napa Rose.
A full experience after it was all said and done, with tip and one non-alcoholic specialty beverage, including there. I think the grand total was $311 for two people.
It didn't include an alcoholic beverage?
No.
It didn't include a mimosa or anything?
And you wonder why we have to push Patreon.
Sweet Lord.
Okay, because I just had to send two people to cover a brunch that cost $300. So
Did you get to keep the chicken that laid the eggs in the end of that one?
You'll have to watch a video.
all right, so yeah, check that video out. All right, let's move on to this review. When we were out in California last week, I stayed at Paradise Pier, and I have a review coming up for that. We'll probably put that out next week. We'll do that next week's show. And the guys stayed at the Anaheim Hotel. Now, it's not to be confused. There's another one. Was it the Majestic Anaheim, or there's another one with the Anaheim in the name, correct?
Yes, because I made a mistake in my Lyft ride one day.
And went to the wrong hotel.
To the wrong hotel.
So it's not the Anaheim Majestic or the Majestic Anaheim. It's the Anaheim Hotel. And this hotel at one point had very bad reviews. It went through a major remodel from what I understand. And so I thought it would be cool. We'd get 2 hotel reviews out of it. Could get nothing on property. That was the Paradise Pier was the only one. So that's why I stayed there, because it's on site and I want to be on site. So I want you, who wants to start off with this? Because I have intentionally stayed away from a lot of the details because I wanted to enjoy this moment.
Well, I think we should start out with the video showcasing the hotel.
That's right. So let's do that. These guys put together a little package of the hotel, so let's show that. Okay, so I have seen the videos you put together. Didn't listen to the commentary. I was just kind of looking. These rooms look beautiful. I got to be honest. From the video, they looked really nice.
We must have very different ideas of aesthetics because I thought these rooms were so outdated in everything that they were going for besides the bathroom. So, but before you even get to the rooms, it really has to start with the lobby experience and the outside. They have made the Anaheim Hotel look to be a retro throwback to 50s Anaheim, that nice modernism that is very popular with Disneyland fans and just anyone who is a fan of that time period in general. And you walk in and it's clean, it's white, but with interesting artwork that has nice pops of color, plenty of places to sit down and relax, a nice lobby bar that definitely feels like that classic motel lobby bar where Dad's going to be at the end of the night, throwing back a couple while the kids are either in the pool or sleeping. And
the furniture kind of all matches that aesthetic as well. And the font for the bar is that stereotypical, like when I think of the 50s, that's the font I kind of think
it's
of.
The closest thing for anyone who's been to Universal Orlando. It's very similar to what they kind of did with Cabana Bay. And that really going for that throwback style.
The 50s, 60s.
Exactly. And the lobby achieves it. So in my opinion, you pull up and you see, that does kind of look like motel style rooms, but you see this lobby and you walk inside it and it's clean, it's comfortable, it's inviting.
It's bright, yeah.
It's bright. Even at night, they somehow still seem to capture like a nice warmth into it. So it really feels like it's going to be a great place, especially if they keep that aesthetic throughout. All the rooms, there's like 7 or 8 different buildings, I think, in total, spread all throughout the campus of the hotel area. It's a very large
306
hotel
rooms.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like that many rooms, but it is definitely, there's only 2 floors is the maximum height. So it's spread all about with all these buildings. But as soon as you leave the lobby and you walk outside, you just kind of get entranced in the area too, because they keep that retro theming throughout the grounds. All the grass is cut perfectly, like you would think it's right out of the AstroTurf backyard of the Brady Bunch. The palm trees are just everywhere, all around. Feels like classic California in a way. The pool's this big Olympic-sized swimming pool that just is, again, looks like a throwback motel-style pool.
There's a jacuzzi
more perfect than what you could ever want from it. There's lighting effects all around. There's accent colors on some of the buildings. It all looks spectacular.
It has great curb appeal.
They're trying to...
Great curb appeal.
What I noticed from just you walk in around the lobby and just before you even get into the rooms or anything too is there's a veranda area which is just this kind of wide open space, and then there's some seating area next to that. There's like a little gaming area that you saw in the video where it's Adirondack chairs with like you can toss around, like I don't know what the games are that you could play over there, bocce or something like that, but and right away I'm like, wow, they clearly want people to have a wedding here, because they had like some of the Edison bulbs up, and as you walked in there was like the executive offices were on the side, and I was like, there's a lot of this, like it's like the cover of a book is what we'll call that lobby. So
yes. So do you guys have anything else to say in terms of the grounds? Did we kind of nail it?
Yeah, the outside was really beautiful. And as somebody who used to live in California, walking through that outside from the lobby to our room, I just got those feels of like, this is a California hotel. This feels very much
Hotel California.
Yeah, this is Hotel California. Yeah, and I love the retro vibes I was getting from there too. But yeah, and then we transitioned into the rooms.
Well, that was a challenge in and of itself, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. So this is like a twofold problem that I'll let Craig take over, because we had an issue with the room, and then we had an issue with the people who put us in the room.
Well, and let me just say, I was getting looped in on these text messages back and forth between these guys. We always do a group text when we go on trips like this, so that we can all communicate with each other really easily. And so I was seeing a lot of the texts that were going back and forth, and all I could think to myself, was this hotel has absolutely no idea what a bad day they're having. That every one of these things is going to be talked about on the internet at length.
Well,
and they're going to be a little bit, at least among our audience, they're going to be a little bit of a punchline. So go ahead.
It's the second time in working here that I've seen Craig almost use a bad word in public. Well, he did use a bad word in public with somebody once. It rightfully deserved. And then this was another time where I felt like I had riled him up so much. And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done this.
I was genuinely the most calm person walking to it. I think it was Tom Rhino and I was the calm one. And then...
Oh, I was I was in the room and I was like, you know what? We're going to talk to a manager. We're doing this. And I was like, I'm going to be Becky with the good hair today. I don't care. Susan, get me the manager. But what led us to this is this event. We'll get there.
So let's talk about service overall with that as a whole. Service in my regards to this was terrible. It didn't seem like it was going to be this way because our check-in experience
was very nice.
Very nice. Walked up more than friendly, very efficient in terms of checking us in. There was
we got there we should say we got there at 9:30.
Yeah, we were very early in the morning.
We go in knowing our rooms are clearly not going to be ready. People are probably still asleep in them. But
real quick though, so for the check-in, I think you guys came in after me and Charles, and the conversation that we had when we first got there was that they were going to put us in the rooms that we got, but then the very next morning they were going to need to switch us.
Yeah, check-in was the first. That was later on in the day. Okay. That was later on in the day, but initial check-in, first thing in the morning, was we got there right from the airport, and we go up, and it was the smoothest process. They found all of our rooms without issues, and paid for the rooms and said, okay, well, it probably won't be ready till 4:00. Okay, that's fine. That's normal for a first day. And we just then went and headed off to
the bags.
Disneyland.
Yeah, they had a bag check area. So if you are staying there, there is an area for that. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just put all the bags together.
I mean, what hotel doesn't do that? If they're not doing that this day, then chances are it charges by the hour, and you don't want to stay there anyways. But maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know your life.
Speak for yourself.
Anyways, yeah. So we leave. We head to property, and we're relaxing over there and starting our vacation, having fun. It then crosses that time period. I think it actually wasn't even to the time period yet, but Charles and Fiasco did go back to check in on an update on the room situation and what was happening. And
I think that was around 3:30. I want to say
that was like
3:30.
Yep.
Yeah, and it still wasn't ready at that point. But then I believe that might have been at the point where you were then notified about the crazy room situation that we were put in.
Right. So basically what they told us was, hey, these rooms that you paid for were the 3 king bed rooms next to each other. We can give you those rooms, but then tomorrow we're going to have to move you into rooms with queen beds, basically downgrade you because there's a tour group of chaperones coming on, which is I understand that the tour group with chaperones needed to be together, but it just seemed like they didn't plan out this.
They tried multiple times to be like, well, we can put you in the rooms with the queen beds. We can put you in the rooms with the queen beds. And we kept saying, well, we want the rooms we paid for, because at no time are they like, oh, we'll refund you or whatever, any of that stuff. And I'm on that same page. I understand there was a group that came in, but also they weren't checking in until the next day. So I'm starting to think to myself, I'm really confused about how they're coming after us and we're going to have to move because we're here first.
Yeah. So it was a very irritating situation right off the bat that we got in there on our very first day after a 5-hour flight and sat down on the ground, wait the entire day until 4. Again, we know that's when standard check-in is, so that's not an issue. But then be told, okay, you can stay in this room tonight, but guess what? You're not going to be able to unpack and start relaxing and enjoying your vacation because we need you out the very next day so we can give these rooms to another person that we deem needs them more.
Yeah.
And if it was a situation where, they needed our ground floor rooms or something because they needed them to be accessible, I understand that. I will not throw anything on that. But the fact that we get a certain room type, and then they're like, no, we didn't plan right, so now we're going to inconvenience you guys here for someone who shows up tomorrow who asks something. But then when I even question them on it, they're like, well,
You're
we
leaving
don't...
out a part, though.
Well,
They weren't even... This conversation that started to happen was around 4:30 or 5 o'clock at this point, and they were like, well, we can give you one of the rooms right now. And so we had to like put our stuff in the other room before we even got into the temporary rooms. And then he had this whole conversation this is just the beginning of that conversation.
This is still day one.
Yeah.
So essentially, we just give in, say, you know what, we got our 3 rooms. I think by 6 o'clock we were finally moved into all 3 rooms. Let's just leave it for the night and worry about it tomorrow.
And so 2 of the rooms were adjoining, and 1 was like just down the hall around the corner.
Yes.
Same building.
So then, like good people that we are, we just kind of gave in and said, okay, well, didn't unpack. Next morning, we had to move all our stuff back into Charles's room because we were losing our rooms. And then we started to go about our day, and it kind of dawned on us like a little while, like, well, wonder what's going on with the rooms, wonder what's happening. But we genuinely knew that they weren't going to be ready anytime soon. It was like
soon. 5 o'clock on the second day that we went back. And because I remember thinking like, oh, they'll definitely be ready. They know we've been waiting. It was like 5 something, and like the other rooms still weren't ready. And then they put us in the 2 rooms, and the room I went in with Tom. I don't think Tom even saw. Oh yeah, you did. You walked in the room with me, and we walk in the room, and I'm like, okay, there's an adjoining door on the left side of this room and the right side of this room. So they put me in the middle of 2 other rooms could access this one room, and I was like, then I just was standing there and I was talking to Craig, and I was like, I'm really confused because I thought the whole point of us moving out of the adjoining room was because they needed the adjoining rooms, and now I'm in a room that has 2 rooms that can attach to it. And so then we were on the second floor, and Craig's room was like on the first floor.
And I just I don't know if it's been mentioned how much we were paying a night for these rooms.
The grand total for 6 nights I know was $1,500. So
these rooms were in excess of $200 a night. So we're not talking about an $89 a night motel.
Yeah,
we're talking about $200+ a night for these rooms. I just want to make sure that point is.
Well, this is where I started to get upset too, because I'm just standing there sitting and thinking, and I'm like, okay. I was there when you guys checked in, and I saw the price, and I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, okay, this is the price of how much we paid. They've tried now 3 times to put us into queen size rooms without even the offer of being like, well, refund some of the money or any of that. And then I'm like sitting in this room that I'm like, okay, stranger on this side, stranger on this side. Both people could try and open this door because it wasn't like the door's really locked. Like, so I was like,
they didn't wait. The adjoining doors didn't lock.
They weren't like normal adjoining doors. They were just like both of the doors had to open. You know, sometimes there's like a bolt or something that'll keep it locked, and you have to like get it opened. They were just like a door. I felt like when we had the adjoining room the other night, I could just open the door, and he could open the door, and I could have just.
But there were no locks on those doors.
I don't think so. I think it just opened the door.
I don't remember on that. That wasn't necessarily my concern. A lot of the issues.
There were locks on each side, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was going to say, I can't imagine there wouldn't be locks on them.
The bigger concern with that is it went from the very first day of saying, like, okay, well, you're going to have 3 king rooms side by side by side. Eventually we said, okay, well, to speed up the process, as long as they're like just, you know, they don't have to be side by side by side, but as long as they're like within the right area of each other, that's good enough. And then the very next day with that, then they're like, okay, we're going to place 1 up here, 1 down here. This room gets in here. So basically,
like, you can go in building 6 and have the adjoining rooms, but they'll all be queen size rooms.
Yeah,
and that's what you said yesterday.
And they kept trying to downgrade us on that. So they were really curtailing around, in my opinion, that they have no one with a brain who is actually looking at reservations coming in and setting up and taking requests into action. So if you're a person who does need to make requests on your room, connecting rooms, adjoining rooms, anything like that, definitely needing a downstairs room, I wouldn't put your life that they're actually going to do anything about it. So cutting to then finally saying, you know what, let's get a manager involved because we need to get to this situation.
And I just want to point out to everyone that this is now 2 days, 2 full days of finagling around this. And we haven't even talked about the rooms themselves yet. This is how much went on with this process.
And where I snapped, the reason I snapped with it is because okay, so when you pay for a hotel room, you expect it from check-in day at 4 o'clock that day you check in until 11 o'clock on the day that you leave.
Yeah.
We essentially, because of what we were doing, we lost out. We paid for that entire day to be in a hotel room that then we actually couldn't access because we had to check out in the morning and then couldn't get our room until later again at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that after you were the one who said it, because I was like, let's go to the manager because the adjoining room, and I'm kind of annoyed. And then when we were standing there starting to talk to the front desk person, that's when you were like, we haven't had access to room. And I was thinking, yeah, you know what? It's going on like 36 hours, and I haven't been able to take a single clothing item other than the ones on my body out of my suitcase. And so I'm an anxious traveler, and that affects me. Like, but what if we weren't going to the parks? What if we had just come into town, like I had to visit a relative or something, and that day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stay at the hotel. I wouldn't have had a room for 24 hours.
Even if you are going to the parks, some people like pool days. They like to take a break in the afternoon. They like to take a nap.
Yeah.
That was all unavailable to us, despite the fact that we were still paying for a room that we had zero access to because we were kicked out of our first rooms and moved to help convenience someone else and not have any of our feelings taken into consideration. We asked for a manager. And after the guy at the desk was really lovely and trying to help out, but it just got to the point where he could no longer help us anymore at his level. We needed to get a manager involved, and the manager comes up to us with his little smug smile.
Hold on. The manager. I'm going to put that in quotations for right now. We'll get back to that.
He was essentially a shift supervisor, not an actual manager. We found out that management is only present from 9 to 5.
And we started this conversation at 4:15.
Yeah,
because I checked my watch. Because when I'm doing that stuff, I always like to know who I spoke to at what time, so I always write it down. And so the concierge woman who was standing next to the desk said when this guy walked away, because Craig was like, "Who's the person above him?" And she's like, "Well, he's a supervisor." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. And they were like, "Well, when's the manager?" And they're like, "Well, they leave at 5." And I'm like, "It's 5:02 right now." And we've been here for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and at any point in that, he couldn't realize that maybe I need to get the actual person who has any power in this involved, but that wasn't a thought. Over and over again, he kept making sure that he said, "Oh, well, I was off the past couple days.
Yeah,
I was off the past couple days, so
like I said,
I don't
wasn't
know."
here the last few days.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm like, I don't care what your schedule was. That's not what you say to people.
So because we went in asking, like, can we get an actual, like, a play-by-play breakdown of why these decisions were made so we know, so we can sleep better, because we were inconvenienced. We had to leave our room to help someone else, which, you know what, I guess we can pat ourselves on the back for that, but like we said, we paid for a room that we should have been able to have access to, and we didn't. And no one seemed to be able to tell us why that was, nor did they care at that point. And every now and then he would throw in, "I understand that it's an inconvenience. I do see why you're disappointed." Finally, when I officially
face is getting red, and I was like, I could feel it,
I realized in the entire conversation with the shift supervisor, not once did he actually apologize. Which I was essentially a shift supervisor at Universal for how many years? You know that in a situation like that, the first thing you do is apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry about that. Well, I understand the situation's difficult. I understand. I understand. I lost it and said, I need you to realize you haven't apologized to me yet. I need you to say I'm sorry. So he's like, "Oh, no, I do offer my apologies." And I said, "No,
Yeah.
I need you to stand here and tell you
I was standing there
I'm
like,
sorry.
I feel like I need to back away
Yeah.
in this moment.
And finally he did. He broke down. He's like, I'm sorry. And that's when it started a chain reaction. And, I can give you food credit at the hotel.
Yeah, $30 per room, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
this was a fun thing, too, that came back later.
Yeah, that was all shady. He's like, well, we'll give you room credit. And then eventually we go and ask, like, well, what's
food, for meals.
Yeah, what's the deal with the room credit? Oh, just go and walk up to any restaurant, Pizza Press there or the lobby bar and order what you want and tell them to just put it on your room. And the manager will take it off at the end of your stay.
Well, I asked the guy, because I went back, it was like day 2, and I was like, he said $30, did he say a person or per room or whatever? And we're like, okay, and we'll check. And this isn't like money back we get. This is just a credit. And so I go up and there's like, it's a Die Hard villain at the main desk. And he is like trying to look it up. No information about it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so not only that, but nobody ever knew, the 2 people that we dealt with that day, no clue that what was going on with our rooms or anything like that. So nobody knows anything.
And if you're, one last thing on that. If you're a shift supervisor, I don't care what job you're working on. I worked in restaurants where you have shift supervisors when the managers aren't in, you have all that. It's called a freaking pass down, where any issues that arise from the day before are recorded somewhere. So that way, when you start your shift, you can come in and you know what is the current situation.
Well, it's very clear. I say it all the time that usually within a day, because I've done this so many times, I've reviewed so many hotels, usually within a day, I can tell you how good the general manager of that hotel is. Because there are things that will go wrong that are just things that go wrong, because things go wrong sometimes. Somebody has a bad day, whatever. Then there are things that are systemic. And those things flow from the general manager. And I have to say, with what I heard on that trip, what I'm hearing now, this is a general manager that needs to lose his or her job, because this is a systemic failure at every level. Like I said, we haven't even gotten to the rooms yet, which we need to get to. In the interest of time, we need to get to the rooms. But go ahead, Corey. I know you got something.
One thing I really wanted to mention was it felt like, because I was with Pete most of the time that you guys were dealing with this, but it felt like every time I heard about something going wrong with the room, our key card stopped working too.
Oh, our key cards did not work once a day. I was at the hotel. And there was a couple times where it was because one of us would accidentally leave our card in the room, so they had to start over again. But there were times where I know we both had ours, and I would go to the room, and it wouldn't work. So that pissed me off that not only was the staff terrible, but then I had to constantly go back up to them because my key cards didn't work. And that just got me fired up every single time, too. But
let's move on to the rooms.
Yeah, it's the rooms.
Point taken. Staff horrible.
Okay, so the room for me, I don't know. Everyone's standards are different. They were big. I liked the bathroom, like Craig said. I shared a room with Tom. I feel like we're pretty good roomies, but I liked the bathrooms area was really big. So like we each had our own space with 2 sinks, room to spare. The king size beds were nice. I felt like I slept comfortably. I feel like the room itself had enough space. There's a couple of weird design flaws, though. The outlets were all too big to hold my iPhone charger, so that was fun. So I never really had a full charge on my phone the entire trip because I couldn't charge anything in the room, really. There was just one outlet they had installed, but it was in the far corner of the room, and it only had 2 or 3 plugs on it. So,
and this is a room that is allegedly recently rehabbed.
It didn't feel
that's what I read online, that the rooms had recently been rehabbed, that the whole hotel had undergone a multi-million-dollar renovation.
Wow.
Well, my room was a lot cleaner than Craig's room.
Yeah, if they were rehabbed, then whoever did the design has zero taste at all, because it was just so old. It was brown and tan everywhere. And to me, that does not go with the theme of a retro Californian hotel from the 50s. The carpets were dirty, ugly brown. I'm sure they were probably filthy if we could have seen, but again, because of the color, you couldn't really tell. The beds, the king beds that we did have, I will say they were large and they were comfortable. They were very comfortable. But the state of dust in our room, and I'm allergic to dust, so it does affect me. pretty wildly. Like my wife would not have been able to stay in the room. Right by like the vent where you came out, I did the Pete Werner classic finger test on everything, and I mean clumps of dust just falling off the tops of everything.
It's
Okay, and you know what? I genuinely believe that, because I kept checking to see what was on property, and it was nothing. And then one day there was one room at Paradise Pier, and I grabbed it. And I really do believe it was God intervening because can you imagine? I know how you get. You know how I get. Can you imagine? Had I been there, had I been experiencing this, I would have a felony record. They would have arrested me.
And I saw my air filter because we could see through.
Yeah.
And my air filter clearly had not been changed. I would say maybe 6 months.
It was black.
So-
It was like mine. You could still see was like gray, and it was the kind where you're like, "Whoops, we forgot there were air filters and didn't replace it." But the air conditioner in the original room I was in sounded like a freight truck too. When you turned on the cool, it was like, "Oh God, there's a truck in this room." But Tom and I each made a friend.
but you had other things in your room.
Oh yeah, we had friends. We made friends. Each
Yeah,
one of us
we
made
know they don't vacuum either.
Yeah. So Tom.
But Tom, tell me about that. Tell me about why they don't vacuum. How do you know that?
So we found a dead cockroach in the room. Found it one day, so I kind of just left it there, just because one, I didn't want to pick it up, but just to see if they would clean it up. And miraculously, it was there when we returned to the room the next day, or that night. So yeah, they didn't.
Did it ever? Did they ever pick it up, or did you end up having to do it?
No, because I was the last one out of the room. Because Tom left first thing in the morning on the last day, so I think it was there for like two or 3 days. Like we were like, we're gonna leave this fella here and figure it out, and it wasn't hidden. It was like where the desk was, the chair, cockroach, and so it wasn't like under anything. If you
But housekeeping had come in. Your beds were made, towels were replaced.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. I know my sheets weren't changed either often because the first day, like I spilled, I was drinking something and I spilled a little bit on the corner of the sheet, and I tried to wash it off, but you could tell like I had spilled a little something on the edge, and those sheets were there pretty much the entire trip. But then one morning I had a delightful spider crawl out of the bed too, and I was like, it was like the second to last day, and I was like, I'm not sleeping under these covers ever again. I would light this hotel on fire if I had the chance, because I was like, I don't know if there's a nest in this bed or whatever, but I'm talking it was a big black spider, like the kind where I was like, if this bites me, it's going to be arachnophobia, and I am not Jeff Daniels, so I'm not making it through.
I didn't bother reading reviews until after we got back. I didn't even think about, because you're in a place where you feel like, oh, it should be something that's well taken care of. Yeah, it should be okay. It's a good neighbor hotel, but I know Disney even has this problem too. I read multiple reviews of people complaining of bed bugs.
No, don't say it now.
We completely forgot to check the mattresses for that, and I know that is a cardinal rule of doing hotel reviews.
Well, this is what bothers me. And I say this as someone that does a tremendous amount of business with Walt Disney Travel, okay? Whatever the standards are in California to designate a good neighbor hotel, they are woefully inadequate. I realize that they need a lot of hotel rooms because they are so limited on site with what they have. They need far more hotel rooms in the area to refer people and keep them within the Walt Disney Travel family. That is why they have the Good Neighbor Hotel policy. Those can be booked as part of a package, a Good Neighbor Hotel package with Walt Disney Travel. Obviously, they want to sell their on-site ones first, but if they can't, they're going to put them. This is now the second hotel that I've had an experience with. The first one being Grand Legacy at the Park, which is right across the street. That was also a Good Neighbor hotel. Obviously, quality of the rooms has absolutely no bearing on whether or not these hotels are brought into the Good Neighbor program. Absolutely no bearing whatsoever. So I'm sorry, where Disneyland is concerned, and I really hate saying this because I love them out there and I love working with them out there, and I hope I don't shoot myself in the foot with what I'm about to say, but I got to say it. I won't trust the Good Neighbor designation in California. I trust it implicitly here in Orlando. It is a very strict program here in Orlando. I'm not saying it's 100% perfect, but they have real guidelines. Hotels like these two would never in a million years be designated as Good Neighbor hotels out in here in Orlando. So I, at this point, feel as though the Good Neighbor designation can't be trusted.
I was thinking, because the one thing I forgot to mention in my room too, to know that it wasn't cleaned very often, is the second room we were in had a nice present when we showed up. In the freezer there was a box of Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches still left in.
It's hilarious because I'm doing the walkthrough and Craig goes down to open the refrigerator and he's like, "And you got yourself a little free." Oh. He opens it.
Okay, that's funny. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny because I had. You'll see when we do the video of my walkthrough of my 2-bedroom at Boulder Ridge from a few weeks ago. We had a very similar experience. I'm not going to give it away, but it was really funny, and I laugh every time I see it.
And so those were cute treats. The other treats, because of the inconvenience that we got, they decided to leave us 3 chocolate chip cookies in a bag to say they were sorry for all the inconvenience they caused us. I believe either 2 of the 3 or all 3 of our rooms all had "Do Not Disturb" signs on the door. But they just said, "Screw that. We're coming in anyways to leave you these cookies." And we're doing it.
And I have a story about that. It was a little foreshadowing when that happened. So the last day we're there, I've got the room occupied sign on, and whatever. Somebody opens the door once because they think it's the last day. That's fine. But I was clearly not checking out till 12. It was a late checkout. This was before 11. The housekeeper walked in 3 times within 8 minutes, and every time, same lady, shocked that I was there within 8 minutes, and I did not have my clothes on. Yep. So it wasn't even enough time.
Well, she was traumatized.
She did by the knock, knock, and I went, literally, it was the sound of the knock, and I started saying somebody was in 1 minute, and the door opens, and I'm like, well, there's my lower half. And I'm going to go put my clothes on, and she comes back in. And I'm like, it wasn't even long enough for me to put my pants on. And so,
all right,
disgusting.
The same exact thing happened to me from about 8 a.m. till the time we left, the day we left. And she came in like every 30 minutes. The only difference was I had clothes on. But
all right, so in the effort of time, we got to wrap this up. Do you have one more thing you want to add?
Oh, I was going to say how I would rate this hotel.
Well,
if
that's
you don't
what
mind.
I'm going. That's what I'm going to right now. So we'll start with you, Corey. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give the Anaheim Hotel?
For that price point, I'd probably have to say about a 5.
A 5. Tom, what about you?
Yeah, the problem for me is the price point. I would say, based on our experience, 5. If we hadn't had all those issues, maybe a 7.
Okay.
For the room
but
itself.
Considering that every room had issues, I have to assume we had 3 rooms. That every room had issues. I have to assume this is property wide now.
Well, for the price point, I looked at dates in May, just like around Kylie's birthday. I'm not going out there, but just kind of like saying, well, if I did, I could get within $10 of what the Anaheim Hotel was. I could get the Hilton Orlando. The Hilton Anaheim, the Hojo, as well as my favorite hotel in that area, the Hotel Indigo, all within, I think, $11.
All much, much, much better choices. Yeah. Much better choices. So Tom, you're saying a 5 at a better price point, a 7, or at without the issues, a 7.
I think this hotel's maybe worth $129.
Yeah.
All right, Rhino.
Yeah, I'd probably put it like a 4 because like I got down and looked under my bed because I have anxiety about leaving everything in a room, and I'm telling you, like I can forgive the bugs, but when I look under the bed,
no, I can't.
There's like food and all this stuff. No. I was like, no. So I'm like 4, 3 maybe even.
I would say, to go in depth with it, I would give the grounds and the lobby and the pizza press that's there, everything that's about that, a 10. It's beautiful. I would give the rooms probably around like a 6 because they are large and the beds were comfortable, and the bathroom was definitely renovated and clean. The shower had no water pressure whatsoever, and you couldn't get a temperature. I forgot about that. I'll drop that down to a 5 for the room. And then service 0 or 1. So it's going to level out for me right around 5, 4-ish in there too.
Which is about the lowest review we have given a hotel in a very long time. So that should tell you something. It's not like we trash every hotel we stay in.
No.
As a matter of fact, I think our reviews tend to be much more positive on balance. And so for this, I mean, this really says something that it was this bad. So there you have it. That's our take on the Anaheim Hotel, and that is going to do it for this episode of our show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back with you again next week with another edition of the Disneyland version. So I want to say edition multiple times. The Disneyland edition of the Dis Unplugged. Have a great week, everybody.